Welcome to the Massillon City Council meeting for Monday, March 6th, 2023. We have in attendance with us the following city officials.
Mayor Kathy Carter.
Good evening.
Safety Service Director Barb Sylvester.
Present.
Law Director Justin Richard.
Present.
Assistant Law Director Edmund Mack.
Present.
Economic Development Director David Maley.
Present.
Is Samantha here tonight? No. Did Chief have to say? No. Income Tax Budget Director Lori Patty-Voron. I saw Lori.
She left.
Okay. I believe that's it, Madam President. Is there anyone from administration I missed? That's it, Madam President.
Thank you, and thank you everyone in the audience for being here tonight. Under number 5 on the agenda is where the public can speak on any topic that does appear on tonight's agenda. And then again, under number 17 is where the public can speak on any topic that did not appear on tonight's agenda. I'd like to ask you please to mute your phone or set them to vibrate to keep background noise at a minimum. Roll call. Kramer. Present.
Gray. Harvard Smith. Here. Hurricane.
Here.
Lewis.
Present.
Lombardi.
Here.
Sloops.
Here.
Sneed.
Here.
Deal. Here. 8 present, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilman Lewis.
Make a motion to excuse Councilman Gray.
Seconded by Councilman Sloots. Yes, I know you, Jamie. Roll call.
Harvard Smith. Yes. Hurricane.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Lombardi.
Yes.
Sloops.
Yes.
Sneed.
Yes.
Violen.
Yes.
And Creamer.
Yes.
8 yes to excuse Councilman Gray.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, Councilman Gray has been excused. Councilman Harwood Smith.
Everyone, would please join me in the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Harwood Smith. Madam Clerk, are minutes of the previous meeting transcribed and notices for public viewing?
Yes, they are.
Are there any corrections or additions to be made?
Yes, ma'am, I have to say that there is a correction to the minutes and our bills. I stated that the payment for our copier was January, and it should actually have been for February.
Thank you. Note number 5 on the agenda is where the public can speak on any topic that does appear on tonight's agenda. If you wish to do so, please state your name, address, topic you wish to discuss, and please limit your comments to 4 minutes or less.
Excuse me. You have a resolution at the end there, it's not on your agenda. Would that be a time to bring it up now or wait till the end of the meeting? I believe it's in regards to Who's Ready Mix Company and the zoning.
Yes, that would be resolution number 4
Is that,
on the agenda.
Yes.
that's considered?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, my name is Sam Dow, 835 Cherry Road, Northwest Massillon. I've come here tonight to basically hope that you uphold the cease and desist order against Ruth Ready Mix. It's been an ongoing problem now for approximately 2 years. It's actually more of a health issue, aside from the zoning, so if this is in regards to that, I would hope tonight that you guys do the right thing, upheld the Zoning Board of Appeals ruling to cease and desist and put an end to this, because it's annoying to not only me, which is in the rear of my property, that every morning I wake up and look at that mess back there, but the condominium complex, which is an ongoing basically complex, also has problems with this. And I think that Jim Johnson could more or less explain it if he were here tonight, because he's the one that's pretty much been there through the whole thing. So please do me a favor and do the right thing and put an end to this for everybody on Cherry Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, if you could sign the paper. Anyone else?
My name's Tom Voschel, and I'm representing Cherry Springs Condos. I live at 1025 Queen Anne Drive, Northwest. I'm one of eventually 62 owners at the condo complex. Right now, we have 36 condos completed and occupied, and I've been told by our developer that the condos will be finished in the summer of 2024, so we will have 62 residents when that's all complete. And I can assure you that over the last couple of years, with the pounding of the concrete, not only the reverberations and the noise can be really harmful when you're trying to sleep, but and they often start at like 6:30 or 7 a.m. in the morning. But whenever that is going on, the dust is really a problem. And as Sam mentioned, breathing concrete dust is not a very healthy thing. So in addition to the light industrial zoning that is on that property, we think that it is an issue to be concerned about for health reasons as well. And, you know, the City Council approved that development many years ago, and I'm sure they wouldn't approve that development going in if it was not zoned light industrial. So I'm speaking in favor of the cease and desist order for Huth. Thank you.
John? Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move into new miscellaneous business. Anyone have anything for us? Introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 15, 2023.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Massillon, Ohio to enter into an agreement with Carroll and Workton to provide an economic development inducement grant to fund startup costs, including build-out, equipment, etc., for Little Sprouts West, located at 2112 Lincoln Way West, Massillon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Bernstein?
Thank you, Madam President. First reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 15, 2022 has received first reading. Ordinance number 16, 2023.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio, to accept a donation from Wright Brothers Packaging on behalf of the Massillon Fire Department.
Councilman Lombardi?
Thank you, President Maxton. This is to receive a donation of $3,000 from Wright Brothers. I think they do this once a year. Are there any questions on this? Seeing none, I'm going to make a motion that we suspend the rules requiring 3 readings and bring 16-2023 forward for a vote tonight.
Second by Councilman Sluse. Roll call for suspension.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Sluse,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
and Harvard Smith.
Yes.
8 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Sluse,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Harvard Smith,
Yes.
and Hurricane.
Yes.
8 yes for passage.
Councilman Clerk, ordinance number 16, 2023 is passed. Ordinance number 17, 2023.
An ordinance amending section 2D occupation list of class titles of ordinance number 127-1997 to add 3 new positions within 705 through 730 Health Department and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis?
First reading.
Thank you. Ordinance number 17, 2023 has received first reading. Ordinance number,
Madam President, shouldn't that one, Julie or Arlington.
Yes, I was one ahead of you. Councilman Howard Smith.
First reading.
Thank you. There's ordinance number 17, 2023 is received first reading. Ordinance number 18, 2023.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the unappropriated balance of the 1100 General Fund for the Massillon Fire Department for the year ending December 31st, 2023.
Ordinance number 18, Councilman Lewis.
Yes, this is the appropriation of the donation to the fire department. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I make a motion to suspend the rules requiring three readings, being ordinance number 18-20234 for a vote.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call for suspension.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hernkane,
Yes.
and Lewis.
Yes.
8 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hernkane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
and Lombardi.
Yes.
8 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 18, 2023 is passed. Ordinance number 19, 2023.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the unappropriated balance of the 1224 Ohio Fund for the year ending December 31st, 2023.
Councilman Lewis.
Yes, this is an appropriation of $15,000 coming out of that One Ohio Fund. That was part of the opioid settlement. Are there any questions or discussion this evening? Seeing none, make a motion to suspend the rules requiring three readings, bring ordinance number 19-20234 for a vote.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call for suspension.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Howard Smith, yes, Hernkane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
and Slutes.
Yes.
8 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Viola,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Howard Smith, yes, Hernkane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
and Snead.
Yes.
8 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 19, 2023 is passed. Ordinance number 20, 2023.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the unappropriated balance of the 1234 Legends Capital Improvement Fund for the year ending December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lewis.
Yes, it's an appropriation of $100,000 for the improvements related to the Legends. Are there any questions or discussion this evening? Seeing none, I make a motion to suspend the rules requiring three readings, being ordinance number 20-20234 for a vote.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call for suspension.
Creamer,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hernkane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
and Viola.
Yes.
8 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hernkane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
and Creamer.
Yes.
8 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 20, 2023 is passed. Ordinance number 21, 2023.
An ordinance authorizing the law director to accept and agree to the material terms of the One Ohio subdivision settlement pursuant to the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding and consistent with the terms of the April 15, 2023 National Opiate Settlement, also authorizing the law director to execute the One Ohio subdivision participation form and declaring the same to be an emergency. And I'd like to inform council that he is entering into a new MOU, and it's going to be with Teva, Allergan, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart.
Councilman Lewis.
Yes, as discussed at the committee meeting, this is going to allow our law department to continue to work towards other settlements with other entities involved with the opioid epidemic. Are there any questions or discussion this evening? Seeing none, make a motion to suspend the rules requiring three readings, bring ordinance number 21-20234 for a vote.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call for suspension.
Hernkane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Snead, Harbert Smith.
Yes.
8 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Sluse,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Harbert Smith,
Yes.
and Hernkane.
Yes.
8 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 21, 2023 is passed. Resolution number 4, 2023.
A resolution approving the decision of the Massillon Board of Zoning Appeals in the variance case number 2023-2.
Councilwoman Kramer.
Thank you, Madam President. This resolution is requesting council to approve the decision of the Massillon Zoning Board of Appeals denying an appeal filed November 23rd, 2022, in the variance case number 2023-2 from the Massillon Zoning Code for the appellant Booth Ready Mix and its supply company to cease and exist per the order. We have a public hearing scheduled on March 20th at 5:30 here in council chambers. We did receive documents regarding this resolution. First reading.
Thank you. Resolution number 4, 2023 has received first reading. Is there any unfinished business?
No, there is none.
Are there any petitions or general communications?
No, there are none.
Are there any bills and accounts and claims?
Yes, we have a bill in the amount of $61.89 payable to Visual Edge, which is formerly known as Graphic Enterprises. Is an overage charge for November 24th, 22 to February 23rd, 23.
Councilman Lewis,
I'd like to make a motion that we pay the bills.
second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Sluse,
Yes.
Snead,
Yes.
Viola, Kramer,
Yes.
Harbert Smith,
Yes.
Hernkane,
Yes.
and Lewis.
Yes.
8 yes to pay the bills.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Clerk will pay bills and charge them to their proper accounts. Reports of city officials.
Yes, we have the treasurer's report for January 2023.
Thank you. Mayor, do you have anything you want to address council with? I saw her earlier. Nope, never mind. Reports of committees, our next work session will be Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Yes.
I'd like to have another council welfare meeting on March 27th at 6 o'clock to address some of these solutions that we came up with this evening.
March 27th.
That's March 27th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
At 6 or 5:30?
6 o'clock.
6.
Thank you.
All right, call the calendar. We have nothing. Third reading ordinances and resolutions. None. Second reading ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 13, 2023.
An ordinance to approve the vacation of a portion of South Avenue Southeast, Massillon, Ohio, an unimproved 50-foot wide right-of-way located north of Harsh Avenue Southeast and running in a westerly direction from 20th Street.
Councilman Snead.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is just to vacate the property to make way for the middle school. The only question I had for council is, has anybody heard anything at all from any constituent about clearing this land? And anybody have any questions or comments? Mr. Sluse?
Thank you. Is this lane, is it where the marching band practices in that parking lot?
So we have an attached photograph, aerial photograph of that, and I believe it's over by the visitor parking lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the rule requiring 3 readings and bring ordinance number 13-20234 for a vote.
Second by Councilman Kramer, roll call for suspension.
Slutes,
Yes.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
and Lombardi.
Yes.
8 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Sneed,
Yes.
Viola,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Howard Smith,
Yes.
Hurricane,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
and Slutes.
Yes.
8 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 13, 2023 is passed. We are at that point on the agenda, under number 17, where anybody from the audience will come forward and speak on any topic that did not appear on tonight's agenda. If you wish to do so, please come forward, state your name, address, topic you wish to discuss, and please limit your comments to 4 minutes or less.
Hello, Brooke Longhire, 206 Hayes Avenue Northeast. I'm here today under 24 Lincoln Way East as well. Sorry, I tried to write some notes, but I've got my other job, didn't get a lot done, so I'm going to try to do this quickly and hit my points. First of all, I'm curious, you guys are the council, we have law directors. I had to find the ordinance stating that I wasn't responsible for the damage to my building caused by the demolition. I haven't been to every council meeting, I admit, but I was at one where I sat here and listened to y'all argue about whether to put a lien on or not put a lien on, when the whole time you had to. So who's accountable for knowing the city's laws and ordinances? Anybody? But I'm here as a citizen and a small business owner. I can only speak on the last 4.5 years as far as 24 Lincoln Way East and the adjoining property goes. That's all I've owned it. When the fire happened, I was living in North Carolina. I wasn't here. What I do know is when the architect put out the final report that we were given a copy of, it stated the building was neglected for so long, the mortar was gone between the bricks. As far as the meeting y'all had earlier, I think you need a few more questions to ask. 1, how can a building owner continue to pull permits for 14 years and never do any work? Now, I heard tonight that work was being done. I've been next door for 4.5 years. What work? My ultimate question is, who looked in there at any point in the last 14.5 years and thought, yeah, this could be built back up without ever being demolished? My building, adjoining shared wall, has spent 14 years not fixed the proper way because no trucks could come in and fix my wall from the side it needed fixed after the fire. I've probably been asked 5, 8 times in this whole thing how I'm going to pay for all this damage. Now, at this point, have I received a bill? No. But I'm looking at $4,000 worth of steel a month sitting in my building. I already work a second job to pay my bills at home so I can keep my 126-year-old family business open. I'm not going to get a third to keep steel in my building. I'm not looking for sympathy or any of that. But what I feel, it's a double-edged sword. Should building owners be responsible for their buildings? Of course. Do we want the downtown owned by nothing but mega corporations and millionaires? Apparently. I don't think there's a great answer, but I think the fact and the situation with my building and the building sitting next to me, it is criminal, it is neglect by all the city officials before you and by all of y'all to have ever looked in there and thought, no, it couldn't be torn down. From what I've been told, the owners of it when it went burnt asked to tore it down and were told no. Why? Who was going to build that back up? Who? It was a 20-foot hole in the ground.
Thank you, Brooke.
You're welcome, Mrs. Eisner.
Is there anybody else from council that would like to speak?
Good evening. Gail Dancy, 2014 Tennyson Avenue, Northeast Massillon, Ohio. I've just been made aware of something that may have made you ignore times that I've spoken previously on this building with Fuzzy Cow. I found out that none of the stuff is in his name, so it's in his wife's name. So let me speak to that. even though it's in his wife's name, he still burned down the building that I told you previously. I keep saying that because I want to make sure that stays in the record. So it's in his wife's name, so now I would say that his wife then would be responsible for fixing up his dilapidated buildings. So I'm here again to ask council if you would please consider coming up with some type of legislation that says that people that own dilapidated, below code buildings cannot rent those buildings to anyone within the city of Massillon. Because I see that Lincoln School is being rented again, and if it didn't pass the first time, it hasn't passed now. So I'm going to keep asking that. The second thing I want to ask is I've been made aware that there's a historic building on Walnut Road that was actually owned by someone who was a former slave, and it's really historic, and I have the whole story about that. So I want to know what I need to do, if council could tell me how we can have that turned into a historic building to make sure that it doesn't get torn down. And I also wanted to know if there was anything that we could do to purchase that building to keep it there. It's a historic site that was mentioned by Springhaven up on Wells Road. They did something during Black History Month that I listened to. Spring Hill, I'm sorry. They did something during Black History Month that I listened to, and I heard them say it, and it's like I heard it and didn't hear it, but now I've heard it again. It is a tremendous story. It is a historic building, and I would like to see that preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. If someone after council could direct Gail on who she could speak to about the historic part. Good evening, Madam President, members of council. Just give you the quick update tonight. The sidewalk program, we have $125,000 in the program. We are about $69,000 right now, so $35,000 of the city's money is involved in that 69. The ice rink as of today has started to be taken down, so there'll be no more ice skating. There are two, let me see here. And that the ice skating rink will take a few days for it to be taken down completely. And I know you're probably wondering about our street program for this year, and we have evaluated all the roads, and they're putting together a plan now, and it should be to council shortly. The last thing I want to talk about is the committee that I did put together. There's more than one piece to this puzzle, ladies and gentlemen. There's multiple pieces to the puzzle. And so, yes, some is code, reorganization of our code legislations, but there's other pieces. And so Mrs. Kramer is sitting on that committee, and she is a liaison to council, and I appreciate you serving. But we'll be meeting again here shortly, and then the committee will be bringing recommendations with me along to City Council for changes. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Madam President. Diane, oh, Diane's over there. Okay, Ted and Jamie, everybody else here. I can't believe what I heard tonight. I'm
Name and address.
Lawrence DeLuca, 3900 Mount Pleasant Street, Northwest. That's North Canton, Ohio, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Okay, I can't believe what I heard about Mr. Silla. I have talked to Mr. Silla before. So, his famous line is, put it in an email and I'll talk about it. When Mr. Silla here, and I'll get into this, he said that he didn't know anything of threes. There is a 3, I just showed you before he left. There's a 3, a 6-month, and a 12-month for these historic buildings. It's written in historic. I have it with me. So Mr. Silla, I'm glad you left right now. I just want to say, we got all these buildings falling down due to neglect. And on the ends of the roads, you've got Duncan Plaza, you got all this stuff. Well, we refurbished all that, okay? But it doesn't equate to our historic, beautiful buildings in downtown Massillon. I think we should have taken care of those buildings first and make sure our anchor is down on that before we start going on and putting ends and roads where the historic buildings are falling down, or could be, they aren't now, or we have a Duncan Plaza that's all cement, okay? And these buildings are falling down, and I'm sorry to tell you, I'm very upset about it. Now let's get to Mr. Silla again here, Chief Building Inspector. Here's what he said. I want to revamp this. We know buildings are good and bad in downtown Massillon. He mentioned something that really jumped out of my seat there, probably Jamie seen me. He said that the mayor, that he had 2 business owners that were interested years ago in 30 buildings. Well, I just remember reading the mayor said that there's 2 business owners that invested in 30, interested in 30 buildings from my man. You know, that's years ago, I think. Maybe they're talking about 2 different things, but I'm not talking about 2 different things. Also, these got to be, let's take that building, the ideal, I think it was the ideal, the big apartment building on 59 Duncan that he says was all, you know, blah, blah, blah. People complained to me while I was eating, Mr. DeLuca, can you do something? The elevators aren't working. Everything isn't working, okay? What's it going to take for Massillon? We had 4 buildings falling down now, 4, okay? You talked about Chloe's, I understand, Jeff Dahl's doing his thing. Smell is a great example. He's taking care of his building. He's a landlord. He's been here for 29, 30 years, okay? He talked about citations going out. They're going to go to some board, then we'll go to Justin Richard, the law director. I'm going to ask Justin, maybe later personally, how many of those citations has he seen or come through Mac's desk or whatever? Building owner is compliant. 90 buildings downtown and not even expected a year. Let me tell you, all of Massillon, if somebody worked for me, Aaron, and he didn't expect the building even years, it was 218, I believe the key number Mr. Silla gave. Not to run it down, but we got to get to the pointed facts. 218 is when all the buildings in downtown Massillon are beautiful historic building that Barb Sylvester, she was a coordinator, I believe what she was, budget director, and economic, she fought for this to give us this historic designation. Are we going to slap Barb Sylvester? She's on this administration in the face. I hope not. Fire chief, heck, I'm going to get to what I'm going because this is really upsetting to me. He has to have people go up on the 2nd floor of these historic buildings because they don't want to trip on garbage. Well, let me tell you something. My friend Bill Weaver.
1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. My friend Bill Weaver, Mr. Sewell had to go to downtown Canton to get things. We farm things out like a farm that you would never believe. Our people aren't certified, I don't believe, to do all this. Why? The 2nd and 3rd floor, let's get back to Bill Weaver, I'll make that point. They were unsteady, they couldn't put anything on the 2nd and 3rd floors. You need to tell me we're putting 2nd and 3rd floors in Massillon that's unsafe too? Things have got to be changing here, okay? And also, John Picard. John Picard was held in high esteem by the mayor, by many of you on city council. I like John. His friend comes in and eats at a restaurant I go to, one of his workers. John Picard said, I'll end it up, Madam President, thank you. He said that 30 of the historic downtown buildings, I want to repeat this, Jane, 30 of the downtown historic buildings in Massillon, Ohio, need review, they're bad. And finally, I went to the boots on the ground. I want everybody in Massillon not to believe everything is here. I talked to Estes Wrecking. I talked to Kurt Coffey. I'm not going to mention names, people need their jobs, and I appreciate that. But they said these buildings are very bad. Now, who knows more? The people that were terrible, the waterproofing, everything. I agree with Brooke. We've had a fake facade for too many years. We've had fake teeth and a fake facade. It's time to get this fight going. I agree with you, Ted, on some of these codes. Thank you, Madam President, and God bless Massillon, Ohio, and our historic buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Anyone else?
Did I use my whole 4 minutes? I have one more sentence. It's real important that I say the 4 minutes before.
Come on, Gail.
Thank you so much. Because this is so important, and I meant to say this. It was in the paper or somewhere I read this. The judge even said there has been no court anything for anybody with dilapidated buildings in 10 years. So for 10 years, the city of Massillon, the council or whoever, has ignored people who had dilapidated buildings. Nothing has ever come to court in 10 years about those owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
Introduce myself. I'm David Schultz. I live on Providence Road Northeast. I was here earlier for the committee meeting, and my head was spinning listening to the conversation between the council members and Mr. Silla. This has been something of interest to me for many, many, many years. I came here 42 years ago, and those of you who know me know I've always been interested in historic buildings. I live in a home that's almost 100 years old. Okay? And I had to make notes because there were so many things that were said tonight. But the comment was made that buildings need to be restored. Buildings need to be restored when they're not maintained anymore. I own a 100-year-old house. It's not in need of restoration because it was maintained. I own 3 antique automobiles that are 90 years old, and I could drive them to California tomorrow because they were maintained. They don't need to be restored. So where we've fallen down is on maintenance. That's simple. And there's no point in pointing fingers at people, but that's been our issue. I've been a trustee of the Massillon Museum for years. You can all remember there was a wood structure building next to the museum. Remember that building? It's now been replaced by the addition to the museum. When I was on that board 40 years ago, that building was, a wooden building, was leaning against our building. It touched it. And the solution from the building department was to saw off the part that was leaning on our building. The building was structurally unsound. It was probably turning into a trapezoid. If there was ever a building that should have been condemned, that was it. But we ended up having to pay way too much money for something that should have been a tear down so we could build a museum. How do we enforce code? You guys ask good questions. What is the code? Because from where I sit, you have to have a base to start with. What's the law say? How far can we go? What can you do? Or do you just wring your hands and say, oh, geez, you know. I mean, if those buildings that were burned in 2009 were repaired and passed code and then fell down, there's a disconnect there for me. A building that's been repaired doesn't fall down. What's the code? Or who's enforcing the code? I guess the other question is the staff. How does the staff function? I would ask that question, the building code staff. I mean, are they proactive or do they wait for the phone to ring? I don't know. But when I ran a business years ago, one of the things that I initially asked every one of my department heads when I started working with them for job descriptions of all their people, because I had 3 unions to deal with, and I had finger pointing going on saying, well, that's not my job, that's what I'm supposed to do. We're going to fire her because she doesn't do this. And I realized that there was a dearth of job descriptions. And every one of you understand the importance of that. Get a job description. And sometimes the employee and the manager had different ideas of what the job was. So, let's get a job description. So I would ask that question of you as the people in charge of pursuing all of this.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. Well, I'll just segue into residential. This isn't just a downtown building thing, it's residential as well. And I have to say, does anybody drive around the city? We all drive around. There's houses on Wales, there's houses I can give you a list of, you can give me a list of, you wonder how they're inhabitable. Well, what's the process for dealing with that? Anyway, if that's my minute, I'll stop. But thanks for letting me say a few words. I really care about this. You know, I could be out playing golf, but I'd rather be doing this and doing something good for the city. Thanks for your concern. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Anyone else? Dave, did you sign the paper?
No, I didn't.
Thank you.
Does that void my comments?
Anyone else?
George Leva, 222 Lake Avenue, Massillon, Ohio, taxpayer. I wanted to weigh in on the situation downtown with the buildings. tore down 2 buildings, 14 to 20, at a cost of $457,000. The land bank paid $200,000, the city paid $257,000. So moving forward, we're in a situation like Frank was saying about money. People don't have money to put into their buildings. So we got to look at other options. Either tearing some of them down or helping the business owners by criteria from what Ed was saying. How are you maintaining the building? Were you maintaining the building? How long you been here? There should be a criteria for the city to maybe help them save the building. If they're going to stay, maybe a contract. If we help you, you got to stay. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to look at. You got to look at, are they making money? Are they creating jobs? Just another way to look at the whole business entity here in Massillon, because I think we're missing something here, you know, business friendly. That quotation kind of sticks with me, because when 5 city council members voted no for them people to get the money at Tiger Rags, when they had a buyer to buy it, to put in another business, I want at some point for them to tell the city of Massillon how that was business friendly, because I don't see that. So moving forward, that's kind of what we got to look at. I mean, maybe the city could get involved to where, like, what are we going to do here with 14 and 20 right now? Maybe the city has an opportunity to talk to the owner and buy it, and maybe invest in, because it seems like they're having money issues here at this 14 to 20 buildings, because they've been vacant for 14 years now. So there's an issue here. So let's try to, you know, put everybody's thinking caps on and say, well, what are we going to do? How long is it going to sit there vacant? So that's kind of where I'm at with the situation downtown. But the land bank, like I say, $200,000 they kicked in. If we want to start tearing down some buildings, that's what we might need to do, because, you know, the thing going on over in Canton, they're tearing down buildings. They're reinvesting in the Hall of Fame Village over there. That's just taken off. So that's something we might need to think about with some of these big buildings down here. How much more time?
1 minute.
1 minute? Okay. Just one other thing I wanted to touch on was Lake Street. I gave everybody pictures of the situation on Lake Street. So the comments I get, Lombardi says to me, I've been trying to get something done there forever. Talk to Mike, nothing I can do. Talk to Barb. She says, gives me this piece of paper with these measurements, like the houses away from the street. Doesn't fit the criteria. But in 2019, when I asked her about putting up a guardrail, she said they're not allowed to have them in the city limits. Asked her a month ago, you are allowed to have guardrails inside the city limits. So she had just gotten the job, I think, in 2019 from Joel. So I don't know if she didn't misspoke or just told me a lie. I don't know. Maybe she can tell me. Because in 2019, even my neighbor called and she said, you can't have a guardrail inside the city limits. So somebody's going to die eventually. It's getting worse and worse. I mean, the accidents are getting, you see the pictures. And I went to ODOT, talked to them, talked to a guy named Griffin. And he said, just because you get a piece of paper that says it doesn't fit the criteria, doesn't mean you can't put one up. So I'm just gonna leave it at that and see if we can get a guardrail put up. But I took the initiative, because I care about Lake Street, I care about people. You know, I come up here and fight for the people of Massillon all the time, and I wish more people would, because, you know, this is where I live,
Thank you, George.
you know, and I'm a taxpayer. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. So, and one other thing I did want to say, just one last thing. People come up to me when this chamber's over and tell me they're glad I said something. I mean, I ain't gonna tell who they are, but since I've been coming up here since way back to Paul Manson days, when he was over here, people have come up to me and said, George, I'm glad you said something. And I just kind of take pride in that, because that's what it takes, man. It takes somebody to say something. And then, furthermore, it takes somebody to do something. Not just walk out the door. Hey, I gotta go. You know, talk to me, man. Don't disrespect. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, George.
All right.
Anyone else?
Madam President, I just want one thing I can get to. I wanted to know from the administration if a convicted felon can serve on a mayor's committee.
We'll have to ask the mayor.
And the mayor, if she'd like to come up, I would appreciate it if she'd come out and tell me about a convicted felon serving on her committee.
If you want to ask her after the meeting, you can.
I'd be happy to ask her. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Howard Smith,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
second by Councilwoman Kramer, roll call.
Deolin?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Howard Smith? Yes. King?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Sloops?
Yes.
And Sneak.
Yes.
8 yes to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.